Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. His 9th year in the league, Tristan. What a player. What a terrific player. The only shining spot of the entire team, I might add. The question we have here is, what are the top landing spots for Garrett, right? But I also want to take a step back and say, if you're the Browns and you're Andrew Berry and you're looking at this, it's like you have a valuable treasure here. And you're poor. You're very poor. And you have the opportunity to cash in on that treasure and rebuild your wealth. Wouldn't you do it?
100%. You're taking the right approach to this, and you would do it. They will do it. There is zero doubt in my mind he will be traded.
He's gone.
They're playing this game. Because here's the thing. First off, when some player is asked to be traded and when they publicly request a trade, you're like,
it's already talked about.
It's talked about. But sometimes it's like, okay, no, it's someone over their skis. It's like, you're on your rookie contract. You haven't done anything. You don't make demands here. You know what I mean? Even in those cases, though, a lot of times it ends up happening because from the team's perspective, it's like, well, we can't keep a guy here that doesn't want to play here. You know what I mean? We can't keep playing a guy that's a liability to the organization. Myles Garrett has been an upstanding player. He's been like the mold of what you want from a football player. He has been the best player at his position for almost a decade now. One of the most dominant players in the league. A good guy, a guy that sticks with the franchise through thick and thin. And that's not easy when you're talking about a franchise like the Cleveland Browns. The way this played out is, I think he went to the Browns and said, hey, I'm getting at the end of my career. He asked them what their plan was to be a contender, like what their quarterback plan was. Obviously, he wasn't thrilled with the answer he got. I don't blame him. And then when they kind of cold-shouldered him about the trade, that's when he posted his statement on Twitter saying he is formally, publicly requesting a trade. I don't blame him. I think if you're the organization, one, do right by the man. He has done so much for your franchise. He's at the, tail end of his career. He's got a few years left for sure, and you are in a complete rebuild. Do right by him. But also, to your point, and this is the reason, even though they kind of have to anyway, because you don't want to keep a guy that doesn't want to be there. And he's up for a contract. So whoever trades for him has to pay him. So that's another thing. Like you said, the Browns are in a terrible situation. The Deshaun Watson contract and trade completely derailed the franchise for, a decade. They need capital. This is a guy, this kind of player, it does not hit the trade market almost ever.
Yeah.
Ryan, the price for him is going to be astronomical. Like, a lot of people think it could be 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick or a solid player. I almost don't think they even entertain it unless it's 2 first-round picks. Maybe they get away with it with just getting 1 first round and some other capital because the team that trades for him also has to sign him to a massive contract. But with that said, this is the moment for the Cleveland Browns to take Myles Garrett, get a lot of capital, kind of do what the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill, right? Trade him at the peak of his power, get a lot of capital back, and go and turn that into young players that can help rebuild your franchise. So this is a good thing for both parties involved.
So tell us the top contenders. What do you think are the top contenders? Where do you see him going? Who do you think's the first to reach out? Obviously, There's going to be a lot of people reaching out.
A lot of people reaching out.
It's throwing darts at the dartboard, hoping something sticks, right?
Okay, so I've got a list of a couple teams. Let's go through them one by one. This is what there's more teams than this that people have kind of reported. These are the legit ones, I think. Firstly, I do think it's more than likely going to be an NFC team. I don't think Cleveland's going to trade him inside the conference and risk having to play him. Definitely not in division. I think they want to send him to the NFC. Depends on the price. Contenders with cap space are going to be the main ones targeting him. A lot of guys with, young rookie quarterbacks, people with not a lot of contracts on the book. Let's start. Washington Commanders have been suggested. That's one of the top ones. They have $82 million in cap space, third most. Just keep that in mind because he's going to command a giant contract. You not only have to give up capital, you have to pay him.
Could you imagine the Commanders get Myles Garrett and have Jaden Daniels? I'm telling you, that could be one of those 5-year teams that they're just going to truck everybody and blaze a trail through everybody in their way. Like that could be that missing element of the Commanders to be that top echelon team.
Okay, so you saying that is exactly how I wanted to jump in. You said that could be the missing element. That's why I wonder if I was the Commanders, I don't know if I would do it. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but it's like, I think if you're going to trade for him, if you're going to give up a lot of really premium draft picks and pay him a big contract, obviously he's worth it, but I need to believe that he is the difference between us winning a Super Bowl or not. It's like, if we get him, we can win a Super Bowl with no other changes to our roster, like just adding him. I don't think the Commanders are there. Obviously, draft picks are a lottery. You don't know if they're going to hit. You pray that one of your draft picks turns into half the player Myles Garrett is. So it's not crazy if they do it. However, because the Commanders need a lot of stuff, I don't know if one player puts them over the edge. However, obviously they want him. He would make the team better. Funny enough, in the same division as the Commanders, there's rumors going around that the Eagles would not want him to go to the Commanders. It is crazy that the Eagles could get him because the rich just keep getting richer, but Howie finds a way to do it. The way they add void years to the end of their contract, their owner, Lurie, he doesn't mind shelling out money up front for the signing bonuses, so it works out. The Eagles could absolutely go get Myles Garrett. I know some people think that's like, it probably won't happen. It just could. It could happen, Ryan, and if so, I don't know what the rest of the league's going to do.
I don't want to think about that. I don't at all.
How would you stop them?
One team that you don't actually have on our list, but I do want to talk about is the Minnesota Vikings. They've been rumored to, they have the cap space. They have a similar defensive style, but I just don't think that the Vikings are in the place to, number one, I don't think Myles Garrett would want to go there. But secondly, I don't know that they're in the space to really show that this is the missing element. Because like you said, if you're going to give up that much draft capital and whatever else you have to throw in with that King's ransom, like you got to be able to say, okay, well, this is our 3-year plan with Myles Garrett. We're going to land in a Super Bowl. And I just don't think that 3-year plan exists for the Vikings right now.
No, I agree with that. I think the Vikings are a good roster, but one of the big things about them is the quarterback situation. How is that going to shake out? I don't think they're going to pay Sam Darnold. I think they will roll with J.J. McCarthy. I like that. I like McCarthy coming out of the draft. I think I think upside McCarthy could end up being better than Sam Darnold. I know a lot of people are like, Darnold had a good year. He just, had 2 bad games at the end of the year. Me and you believe those 2 bad games are who he is in the big moments. So I wouldn't want to go give him $45 million or $40 million when I have a young quarterback. So if you're Myles Garrett, do you want to go to a team that's going to start essentially a rookie quarterback? Maybe not. Let's bring this team up. Your team, the Buffalo Bills.
That's just not going to happen.
They would love him. Their cap situation and the fact that they're in the AFC make it tough. They're $10 million over the cap right now. Von Miller's taking up $23 million. But maybe, look, anything's kind of possible with the cap because of the way you can restructure contracts and push forward years down the road and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's not the hard no. It's the AFC. I just don't think that the Browns would.
You don't think so?
That. No, I mean it's the. Why? Like, you're going to give one of the best defensive player at his position to another team in the same division? Like,
I'll say this. The only reason obviously, if I was the Browns, I would prefer an NFC team. But if I'm the Browns, I know I'm not a contender this year. So, like, giving him to the Bills, he's not, in his prime. He's not 24 years old. Like, doesn't really affect us.
By the time you're even close to being ready to contend in a playoff match, he'll be at home on the couch or in a ESPN booth somewhere. But the I question, get that.
For the Bills, though, and this is the question every team's going to wrestle with, is it worth giving up all that draft capital? Because the Bills, even though they have a good roster, they do need a lot of pieces. They really need some offensive weapons. They just don't have any offensive weapons. Obviously, Garrett would be a big thing. I think an edge rusher is one of the things the Bills need to push them over the edge.
Yeah.
But I would put that and an offensive weapon. Yeah. I would put edge rusher and offensive weapon right there at the top for Buffalo on what they need. I don't think they'll get him, though. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they'll give up what's necessary.
Right. And then, if you're the Browns, you also look at like highest bidder, right? So like, okay, exactly. You guys are all giving us the same package, but who has the better draft position right now? You got to look at that.
Correct.
And so if you're looking at the Bills, they don't have a great draft position. They did pretty well last year. The Packers, we'll talk about them.
Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah.
The Eagles obviously won the Super Bowl. They don't have high draft position.
All these teams we're talking about are playoff teams.
Exactly. Now,
because Garrett's going to want to go to a contender. He's not going to go to the Giants or something.
Right. But all these teams we've talked about are Super Bowl contenders outside of. I just don't think the Vikings are there, man. I'm sorry, I just don't. I've been let down too many times. I don't even think Vikings fans are ever confident in that.
Sure, they're playoff contenders, but
yeah, well, they always have been that.
Fair,
like that hasn't changed. But the Packers, that's another option that I think is on the table because you look at Jordan Love. He's had his bumps and bruises. He's only going to keep getting better with time. He needs to shake off some of the rookie stuff that he still carries over with him. But once he does that, I think the offensive side of the ball looks pretty good.
I agree.
The defensive side, it doesn't look bad, but it would look so much better with Myles Garrett.
I agree. And just looking at a 60,000-foot view, just me with, my dumb brain, the Packers look like the best option to me. Like, out of all these teams...
See, I would lean Commanders.
Okay. I wouldn't just because of the fact of I think they need so much more. Whereas
the Commanders?
I do. I don't think Myles Garrett just immediately makes them a Super Bowl. Maybe he does. I mean, I know they had a great run this year. A lot of things can happen. Let's see the sophomore slump from Jaden Daniels. I love him. I think he's a superstar, but obviously things can happen. I think the Packers kind of are that one player away. Maybe they need a little more help offensively just because of the injuries they keep having at wide receivers, but they've got youth at wide receiver. They just get hurt a lot. And the defense really could use that dominant presence to get the ball back to Jordan Love. When Jordan Love gets a little reckless and throws a turnover, okay, Garrett, go out there, get us the 3 and out and get us the ball back. I think that'd be a really good fit. And let's just be honest, he would look so good in those old school Packers uniforms.
I'm not going to comment on how good another man will look in a uniform, but...
You were doing it 5 minutes ago when we were on the phone. You said my thong looked
Let's
great.
Let's move on. The Packers are my number 2. They're my number 2 choice. I think, where you think the Commanders are, I think the Packers are. I think the Packers are just as far away from a Super Bowl as the Commanders.
Honestly, that's probably fair.
I may be drinking the Jaden Daniels juice.
Jaden Daniels is a far superior player to Jordan Love, though.
Right. And I know we only have one season to judge that off
Doesn't matter.
But rookie seasons like this, they've never happened. But he is the best rookie quarterback to ever step on the field. Pretty much.
Fair. Yeah, by far.
And so I don't think this is just that sophomore slump's not going to be as big of a slump for him. There's just no way. If it is, then everybody in the media, including us, the nobodies with a microphone, are absolutely wrong. But this team it shows so much potential. I think it is one step away defensively, and I think that step could be Myles Garrett. They have the cap space, and man, the Commanders fan would just welcome him in to that stadium, to that family, and I think we could see some big things happen there.
Yeah, it would be a good fit with Dan Quinn too. I feel like they would work really well together.